Zodiac signs and how they act when jealous. Check timestamps for your sign. Aries. Jealousy in them looks immediate, hot, and hard to hide. The moment attention shifts, they can get more competitive, more reactive, and sharper in how they speak or carry themselves. They may not admit they feel threatened, but their energy changes fast, and they start wanting to reclaim the space they feel slipping. Underneath that jealousy is fear of being replaced, overlooked, or not chosen as clearly as they expected. What they rarely say is that jealousy hits both their pride and their heart. Their jealousy is loud because they feel the shift before they know how to soften it. Taurus. In them, jealousy shows up quietly, but it gets heavy fast. They may not react right away, yet they become more watchful, more possessive, and more fixed on whatever made them feel uncertain. Instead of making a scene, they often pull inward, hold on tighter, and pay closer attention to every shift in loyalty or consistency. Underneath that jealousy is fear of losing security and trusting the wrong person too deeply. What they rarely admit is how much emotional steadiness matters to them once they care. Their jealousy is not always obvious, but it changes their whole energy. Gemini. Jealousy in them can look lighter than it really is. They may joke more, ask more questions, act extra casual, or suddenly become harder to read while noticing everything that changed. Instead of confessing jealousy directly, they often test the energy, talk around it, or keep the moment moving while figuring out where they stand. Underneath that reaction is fear of being made a fool of, left confused, or not taken seriously emotionally. What they rarely say is that uncertainty bothers them more than they let on. Their jealousy often sounds playful first, but it is rarely as light as it looks. Cancer. When jealousy hits them, it usually shows up through changed energy before changed words. They may get quieter, moodier, more protective, or more sensitive to small things once something feels off. Instead of saying they feel threatened, they pull inward and feel every shift in closeness, attention, or emotional priority. Underneath that jealousy is fear of being replaced, emotionally forgotten, or no longer being held as carefully as before. What they rarely admit is how deeply they need reassurance once they care. Their jealousy is not always dramatic, but it can make their softness turn guarded very quickly. Leo. In them, jealousy tends to show up through pride reacting first. They may become more attention-seeking, more dramatic, colder, or strangely dismissive while clearly feeling something they do not want to admit too openly. Instead of saying they feel insecure, they often try to regain their importance by shifting the spotlight back or making their distance more noticeable. Underneath that jealousy is fear of not being special, chosen, or prioritized the way they expected. What they rarely say is how personal it feels when attention moves away from them. Their jealousy is rarely subtle because wounded pride always changes the atmosphere. Virgo. Jealousy in them usually looks controlled on the outside and restless underneath. They may not become openly possessive, but they get more observant, more critical, and far more aware of every detail that feels off. Instead of naming jealousy directly, they analyze the behavior, replay the shift, and quietly become more tense or harder to read. Underneath that reaction is fear of being misled or made emotionally unsafe by something inconsistent. What they rarely admit is how much little changes affect their sense of security. Their jealousy is not always loud, but it becomes obvious in how carefully they start watching everything. Libra. With them, jealousy often shows up through subtle imbalance before anything else. They may stay polite, sweet, and outwardly calm, yet become more distant, more sensitive, or more aware of whether the effort still feels mutual. Instead of openly claiming possessiveness, they react by pulling back or quietly testing whether they still matter in the same way. Underneath that jealousy is fear of being compared, devalued, or emotionally replaced without warning. What they rarely say is how much unfairness unsettles them once they are attached. Their jealousy can look graceful on the surface, but the emotional tension underneath is real. Scorpio. Jealousy in them is intense, watchful, and almost impossible to miss once it fully lands. They may get quieter, colder, more protective, and far more alert to every shift in loyalty, attention, and emotional access. Instead of admitting they feel threatened, they start observing more, revealing less, and tightening control over what they are giving. Underneath that jealousy is fear of betrayal, losing power, or being emotionally replaced after letting someone matter too much. What they rarely admit is how deeply possessive they become when trust and attachment mix together. Their jealousy is not casual. It comes from caring in ways they do not take lightly. Sagittarius. In them, jealousy often shows up through restlessness and a strange change in tone. They may act more sarcastic, more detached, or more unpredictable, especially when attention shifts in a way they did not expect. Instead of saying they feel possessive, they create space, make a joke, or act less invested while still watching the situation closely. Underneath that reaction is fear of losing freedom and still somehow not being chosen. What they rarely say is that jealousy makes them feel emotionally trapped and exposed at the same time. Their jealousy moves fast, but they would rather outrun it than name it directly. Capricorn. Jealousy in them usually shows up through control and distance. They may not openly compete for attention, but they become more guarded, more serious, and less emotionally available the moment something makes them feel uncertain. Instead of admitting they feel threatened, they tighten up, watch more carefully, and give less away while deciding how much trust is still possible. Underneath that reaction is fear of vulnerability being wasted on the wrong person, and fear of losing respect, along with security. What they rarely say is that jealousy makes them feel exposed in ways they deeply dislike. Their possessiveness is quiet, but it can become very strong once care is involved. Aquarius. With them, jealousy often looks detached before it looks emotional. They may act cooler, answer less warmly, pull back slightly, or shift into a more unreadable version of themselves while still noticing every change in attention. Instead of confessing that they feel possessive, they create space and try to regain emotional control through distance and logic. Underneath that reaction is fear of being made irrelevant, misunderstood, or quietly replaced without seeing it coming. What they rarely admit is how much they notice once they actually care. Their jealousy is not always loud, but their energy changes long before their words ever do. Pisces. Jealousy in them often feels soft on the surface and overwhelming underneath. They may get quieter, more emotional, more withdrawn, or unusually sensitive to little things once they feel attention drifting away. Instead of clearly saying they feel possessive, they absorb the feeling, romanticize the shift, and start reading deeper meaning into what changed. Underneath that jealousy is fear of being emotionally replaced, forgotten, or loved less than they imagined. What they rarely say is how much reassurance they need when attachment gets real. Their jealousy may look gentle, but it can flood them more deeply than anyone first realizes. Thank you for watching the video, and let me know your thoughts in the comments box. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to get all the updates.